Hello. Let me see the audio here real quick. Welcome into tonight's stream. Tonight's stream is going to be incredibly different compared to what we normally have on Monday nights. We are testing out doing a miniatures and music painting stream with just myself this evening. Everybody else was unfortunately under the weather. If you guys are watching, hopefully you get to feeling better soon. Hopefully this works out, because I would actually really like to do some streams like this. I think it'd be pretty cool. The specific mini I'll be tackling this evening is known as Ashardalon. He is from the game released by Wizards of the Coast, Wrath of Ashardalon. That is phenomenal. Play this, it's awesome. And if you don't have a group of people to play D&D with, you can pretty much play D&D by just playing Wrath of Ashardalon. So I highly recommend it. Super fun game. But I think that's probably, well, I guess we can go into a few of the sponsors for our general sponsors that we have. We've got Reckless Deck, of course, which is designed to help you guys create worlds and characters through random generation by drawing some awesome cards. If you guys want to check them out, head to recklessdeck.com, and if you do decide to purchase something from them, you can use the code RoleThis with the number 1 afterwards to save 15% on your order. We also, of course, have our friends over at Found Familiar Coffee. That they make some phenomenal coffee, and they're all kind of themed around like D&D stuff as far as their marketing and style, and the people that make the coffee, they're super big D&D nerds, so they're pretty cool people, and they've got a really cool product too. So check them out at foundfamiliar.com/rollthis, and if you use the code RollThis there, you'll save 10% off your order. And you can also check out our third sponsor that exists with us, Arcane Goods. They're kind of a new one. We don't have any of the product yet to show you guys, but they are adventuring gear, basically. So they make some really cool notebooks and journals and accessories for tabletop role-playing, primarily focused on Dungeons & Dragons. If you go to rollthis.com/arcane will get you there, and you'll automatically save 10% off anything you purchase on their site through that link. So there you are. But without further ado, let's switch over here to what you guys are here for. We're going to paint some minis tonight, primarily Ashardalon, like I mentioned a moment ago. Let's see here. Perfect. And of course, all the sponsor stuff is right there too, if you missed anything during my little spiel there. So that'll be just cycling through throughout the evening, because we like those companies. We think they're really cool, and we like to share cool companies with you guys that are kind of dedicated to the same type of stuff, or at least the same type of cool, nerdy people that we like to associate with. So that will be going throughout the evening. And without further ado, let's get into this. Full disclaimer here. This is the very first mini that I have ever painted. So let me get the music up just a little bit here. Anybody who is watching, if you feel like the music's a little too loud or a little too quiet, let me know. I definitely want to make sure that you guys are still enjoying that kind of ambient feel. But yeah, this big old booger is going to be my very first miniature that I've ever painted. I've done some other painting stuff, a couple of model painting things as well. So I'm not completely out of my element here, but it is definitely going to be new. And what we're probably going to be focusing on is going to be kind of getting like base coats down. So this won't probably finish Ashardalon tonight, but we will finish getting all of the like base coatings on to get his general colors correct, and then we'll come back maybe with another stream at some point to do kind of the second coat, the washing, and some dry brushing stuff, as well as I kind of learn more about that stuff. Awesome, Dragonclaw. Glad that everything is sounding good. Thank you for popping in. Thanks for watching. Hope you get to feeling better, man. But let's see here. I think we're going with the... He's got some rocks around the base right here. I think that shows to you guys. Yeah. So right there, there's some like rocks and stuff that I'm going to start off with here. So let's get a little bit of the paint and get to going here. So, just the first thing. This is the first tap of the brush on something that I've been holding off on painting for a very long time because I was a little uncomfortable, a little worried about it, just kind of nervous about getting into it and not wanting to mess it up because technically I don't own this one. This one's technically owned by Phoenix and Dragonclaw. So let's just go to it though. Only one way to get it done, right? And that's to just start on it. If you don't ever start, you'll never get anywhere. Sometimes that's all it comes down to, is just giving it a start. Worst case scenario, if it does suck, we can always just like reprime it or acetone wash it or something to clear it off. But I'm fairly confident we'll be able to make it work now that I'm kind of seeing the way it's affixing to it. Actually holding quite nice and gives it kind of this cool texture too. I doubt you guys will be able to really see that. Yeah, the focus won't do that. If I do that, I'll lose focus up here. But it is giving it kind of a nice little texture. And this stuff that I'm using, as far as the brush and the paints, they're actually fairly low cost stuff. So like you can tell that the brush is kind of bristly and not really the best kind of brush to use for fine detail work. But I think it will serve our purposes just fine. And this whole entire kit I think was like $10 or something. It was crazy. It was on Amazon. I wish I had a link for you guys to that. But I do know I got it off Amazon, and I do know that it was surprisingly cheap. So that's pretty cool. And I really kind of enjoyed the concept that I was able to get the paints without kind of breaking the bank, because that was one of the things that kept me personally out of doing any miniatures as far as like painting my own and stuff. I used to have other people paint them. Which actually my minis that I own aren't here today. I left them at the other place. So what I had done with my original characters and stuff that I'd purchased minis for, I always had people at the game shop, Tabletop Game and Hobby in Overland Park, Kansas. They're also good friends of ours. There's a girl, Haley, there, and she painted all of my initial miniatures. And did a really good job too. I was pretty happy with it. So I never felt like, oh yeah, I need to paint my own minis. But at the same time, I kind of just want the experience of going through and doing my own thing, if you will. Just having that kind of sense of ownership over it, of like, I did that. I made this look this way. So that's one of the things that's kind of motivated me a little bit more recently. And then of course the fact that I was able to obtain reasonably priced paints and brushes as like a full kit. Those rocks actually look kind of amazing right now. I'm gonna be completely like I'm surprised. I'm legitimately surprised. I don't know how good it's coming through on the camera. The focus might be just slightly off or something there, but it actually looks pretty good to me in person, and that's really like immediately boosting my confidence in this. That's pretty cool. I did not expect things to go that well that quickly. Like to the point where I would be perfectly happy kind of just leaving these rocks almost at this point. I'm sure that opinion will change as I start doing more shadowing and shading and washing and stuff of Ashardalon himself, but for the time being, actually pretty nice. Weird part is trying to get in behind here, because he's got hand up over it and there's a gap there and you can see everything. And I don't want to just take the cheap route and be like, oh yeah, it's a bloodstained rock because he's red. That would not, I feel, be the best course of action. I really want to make sure I get, you know, every little millimeter here done up. I'm getting a little bit on him there that I'm not going to be able to get out. When we actually do go to like the finishing of this, I will probably have to get another brush at that point or do like a trim on this one, just so I can get back into some of these more intricate areas a little bit better. I'm having a bit of a struggle with that. It's gonna be funny if I actually knock this guy out fairly quick. We have plenty of minis around here that are unpainted though, so. And actually, that's something I'm curious about. How many of you guys actually have minis that you've just never painted that you use in your games? Super curious if anybody hanging out here is kind of in that same boat as I am / we are here at RoleThis. We've got a couple painted ones, but overall, most of ours are unpainted. I would love to go with some more minis in the near future, but obviously, as with everybody, minis do cost money, so it's one of those expenses that like you can kind of go without. You just have to modify things a little bit. So we've just been kind of doing that because it makes sense, you know. Like if you got to do D&D on the cheap, you do D&D on the cheap. It's not always about like, you know, using the right figure for the story or whatever. It's about placeholders sometimes in that instance, so that you can still tell the story, you can still interact with everybody at the table, and you can still have a good time without having to worry about going out and spending hundreds of dollars on minis and stuff, you know. Because like you could easily spend hundreds of dollars on miniatures, but that's not necessarily what you need to have an enjoyable experience with D&D. I mean, we played without any minis on the table as a live stream for quite a while here. So, like, that should go to show you guys that it's really not incredibly necessary. More spots to touch up. Actually pretty much knocked out with the... It seems quite clear to me that I'm going to want to do the back of the wings last to where I can just kind of hold like this and hit the wings in the back and everything, because I'm using that to support quite heavily right now. Get on his claws there. Come back and go over that a little bit later on. Oh, that one. Ooh, that's hard to see. That's a little trick there. Huh. Who'd have thought someone painting a mini for the first time would have a trick for you, a trick and tip type thing. If you get to a point where you can't quite get your actual brush all the way around the back side of something, just put a little extra paint on it and then just kind of smush it. And then you'll be able to grab it from the other side and pull it through without having to get those fine, precise motions on it. All right. Tell exactly where he ends and the rocks end and all that on the back here. So that's a little tricky. Go ahead and play on the assumption that there's a more rock stuff in here behind him. And we'll blend in him a little bit on there. More rocks back in here. And it's kind of crazy too, like with this specific location here where I'm at right now, like at first it didn't look like you could really see any of what's going on underneath of him, but as soon as I put this gray on there for the rocks, you immediately can see the area now. Because the it's a lighter color than what it was, and so the shadows come off of it a little bit differently. Perfectly okay to get it a little bit on the base there. That's not going to be a problem because we can always come out and expand the base a little bit further in the future. Maybe put some like little rocks or grasses or something on there, some like model stuff, just to give it a little bit more interest. That's not a crazy expense either. I mean, you could literally go out and pick up grass from outside, like grass clippings, and use that for your base materials. Like it's that simple. Like I said, I've done a couple other like model type stuff before, just never any like D&D minis. Oh yeah, rocks a lot. Hope you guys can see that well. I don't know on this monitor I've got here. Yeah, you can see that. And you see how I did kind of go up onto light in there very well. But I went up onto his tail a little bit there, but that's also part of the rock because he's kind of looped around it. And then we'll do some like shadowing, shading, and blending to fix that out a little bit later on. Because I did go a little far on that because he would be, yeah, it's close. It's like just slightly, like millimeter difference there. But we're going to go ahead now, clean the brush off a little bit, which the end of the brush does like come off. I'd noticed before. Like I was just painting, I was painting some of the train pieces that we used for something that you guys will see on Thursday with this, and from that I was like pulling on it, and the glue or something had separated in there, so it had come off. All right, so Ashardalon here again, just kind of showing you guys. You can see the colors that he's got. So he's got a lot of red, and then like that lighter color in the center. So he's kind of the red and orange type dragon. So I want to stay fairly true to that picture, as close as I personally am kind of able to, but I might do a little bit more of an orange underneath his chest just to give that vibrance. It might be kind of cool, and if I don't like it, like I said before, we can always change it. So I don't know which red to use though, because I have two reds here and they look pretty similar to me. Like one's just slightly darker, and he is really quite a vibrant red. Let's just raise up and get the full pigments. It might be better to go with the brighter red and then wash it down later and add more like darker colors to it to bring it down, as opposed to trying to bring it up. Because that is more difficult, trying to bring color up as opposed to bring it down. Always a harder process, and frankly, just really requires more like painting over it as opposed to just putting more paint on. You're like not just adding little elements; you're repainting it. That's what I was trying to get at. Let's see. We're going to continue on the process of kind of starting with the base. Do want to do like right here, I want to be orange, but then the actual scales we'll do in this bright red. And then again, like these spikes and kind of fins that are around him, we're going to aim for a nice orange color on that. Because he does have kind of like fins everywhere, but then he also has certain spots where he has these vibrant spikes. Might be kind of cool to do the fins in a orange and then the spikes in kind of like a bone color. Might be kind of a neat contrast there, I'm hoping. All right, time to put some color on him. Oh! Of course, I start at the most difficult, like narrow point on the whole figure with this brush. It's actually funny, I was painting a camper trailer with my dad not too long ago, and he was telling me about like just these smooth motions, and it's funny how that transitions to like all painting. Like you want smooth flowed motions as opposed to, you know, like super rapid strokes. Just kind of have to focus, get it on there. We don't have it running and pooling up and everything. And again, like I'd said before, this little bit that I'm getting on the base here doesn't matter too much because we're going to be doing quite a bit to the base later on that will kind of enhance the look overall, but it will also make it to where the base itself doesn't need that. There's another thing here too, like I'm noticing already painting on here, it's kind of hard to see the contrast at the moment, just because it is like basically red on red. So that's kind of an interesting thing to be noticing right out of the gate. Focus just a little bit more on here to make sure that my aim is good. Are some tight spots still, and the red doesn't cover quite as good as the gray did. And again, that could be just because of the background color, like the actual plastic itself here. Could be the direction that I'm brushing. Actually doesn't seem to have an effect. Brushed the opposite direction and it does look like it, I don't know, briefly made a difference. Now as I level it out here, which I'm sorry, I'm not even on the camera. Yeah, I'm noticing a little bit even flow there. And underneath this tail, we're actually going to have to pop some of the orange or whatever in there. Make sure that it works out. You do a little stippling like that too, that kind of marking. Stippling is a great way to get those fine details. It's kind of almost like pixel art at that point, where you just kind of pixel by pixel, you're implementing the color into the area. We don't want to paint the wings just yet. Funny, I thought the rocks were going to be more difficult than the body. Body is actually kind of turning out to be the tough part. Scales and stuff. I think it's the texture. Whereas the rocks were fairly smooth. There's a ton of texture with the scales here. So it is causing it to be a little more difficult to get the paint all in there, but I think it is going to turn out pretty cool to get him all squared away here. All right, I want to be careful. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge just yet on this because, like I said before, this is kind of a first coat type of scenario, but I also don't want to overdo it too much to where I am getting kind of down on those rocks again and having to redo those a lot. Because I will be having to do a little bit here and there, you know, of course. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, if you were. Will, I guess is the way that's normally said. But, oh boy. I would prefer to minimize the retouching, of course. It's interesting, the shadowed areas like just really changed quite dynamically whenever you start getting the paint in there. Once you make that differentiation, you may have it to where, like, even with this red, it just doesn't seem like much until you get into one of those shadowed areas. And it just brings it out so much. You can get the light reflecting off it so much better. Pretty wild. I imagine, like, I mean, he's an ancient dragon, so having these kind of darker colors on here, I think that's pretty good. I mean, he's ancient red dragon, so having a little bit of darker color to him, like he's kind of worn, you know, he's been through it. Battled and destroyed many of an adventurer. That type of styling is perfectly fine. I feel like I'm about to drop him again. We're starting to get to the point where dropping him would become annoying because the paint would hit the paper towel I've got down below. Gonna come off a little. Yeah. You guys could start to really see that red popping there. I think it's just a matter of getting enough of it on there and then getting the right angles, because like I have a light right there pointing down on him to kind of light it better for the camera over him, but it's causing a lot of shadows on my side of it. It's like I'm this way up here, and it's causing a lot of shadows there because my light for me is over there, so it's a little bit short here to try to see the colors, but then when I turn it like that, I can really see the difference that it makes. So, pretty cool. And this is a really cool mini too. I am quite fond of him. This is going to be another one of those where, like, you guys may not be able to see the specifics of what I'm doing here, but I'm just trying to get this leg on that inside angle. A little tough to get at. Without getting it all over the rocks. I will say, if nothing else, like, painting minis and just listening to music is incredibly relaxing. Like, if you've got some minis and you've got some paint and you just haven't gotten to it yet, go ahead and get to it. My challenge for you guys. You've got the minis, you've got the paint already. I'm not saying you need to go spend some money and stuff. I'm just saying, if you've already got the stuff, go on ahead and get to work. Enjoy it. Now, sure, if fine detail annoys you, then you might have some problems with that, but, like, overall, just a nice, relaxing thing to do. Like, even when you've got the challenges of trying to get into these little spots, that focus that you have to put into it, I mean, that right there will take away, it just takes away the stresses of your day, kind of. Nice, relaxing do, just pass the time. And like I said earlier, if you mess up on it, but paint over it. You know, most of it's water soluble too, so if you really screw a spot up, you can just dunk it in water, rinse all the stuff off it as long as it hasn't dried and sealed yet. And you can restart. Speaking of restarting, looks like half hour has already passed. tell that without looking at the time because the music stopped. And it was set for about a half hour, and I forgot to loop it. I knew that I'd forgotten to loop it too. I just didn't bother going back and checking it on doing that. Let's go ahead and restart that here, because I do know that this is royalty free. So this is melodic / Celtic / fantasy Fjordor full album. And it's by royalty-free music - Alexander Nakarada. So Alexander Nakarada, thank you very much for making this music and making it completely free to use for anybody. He actually puts on here, this is specifically something that people can use without attribution or anything of any kind. Just says, hey, go ahead and use my music for free. So thank you very much, Alexander Nakarada. We will likely continue to utilize and share your music as best as we can because it's really good. And you've given us the ability to do so. So thank you for that. As someone who creates content online, you have to always be careful about that because like if we were to upload this video, well, let's say the stream. So if someone was to come back and watch this stream at a later time and we were playing something that was copyright protected, we would get a DMCA notice and would not then be able to have any audio on the stream for anybody watching it back. Same story with like YouTube. Once we do the YouTube upload, there will be like a DMCA notice come through, and then depending on how it's set up, we may have to take the video down even and then be able to not put this out, which would be kind of a bummer. It's really cool when you find a musician, a composer that is willing to allow you to utilize their music when you're a low budget production, kind of stuff that makes all the difference. So whenever you're starting out, like if you guys want to do this same stuff, if you want to paint minis on Twitch or Mixer or YouTube or whatever, just make sure you're careful about that kind of thing. That's one of those deals that a lot of people don't take into account as much as they should. They think, oh, I'm small time, it's not going to make any difference. Well, when you're smaller, that's when it does make a lot of difference because you can't expand and grow and do anything if all of your content gets taken down. So gotta be really careful about those type of laws and such. I mean, it is a legal thing. You need to adhere to that. You can't go running around playing Leonard Skinner on all your streams because it's copyright protected, you know? Like, you gotta be real careful about that kind of stuff. All right. He's coming together nicely. And using the lighter red was definitely the right choice on him because he has such a dark background. I'm sure he's got a dark background emotionally as well, but dark background physically here. Using the light red actually blended really well with that kind of deep maroon plumish type color here, and has really made a difference to how it looks. Like, it looks nothing like the actual paint itself just because of that little bit that's kind of, you know, just blending through there. What do you guys think? You think I should do the wings in the red, or you think I should do wings in orange? On the picture, the wings are red, looks like. Okay, I see what they are. They're red on the outside and like a deep orange on the inside. That's what we'll do then. Those back ones, I see yet, so I'm trying to see what I can do on him that is just red, not gotten to, like right here back behind his head. This here, these ends. And going with that stippling just to make sure we kind of push the color into it. Got that coverage, and then kind of brush across, kind of stipple in and then smooth with the brush. Get those precise spots and then drag it along as best you can. Little on the fin there. We'll be able to deal with that as we continue on here. Spot where it just is gonna get on the fins. Deal with that. Case scenario, he's got red fins up there. No? Best case scenario, we make it work to where we can blend it together, kind of correct it. Worst case scenario, got red. When I say fins, because like they're not really spikes on the side of his head. But they are spikes like on the back of his. I keep getting out of frame there. I'm sorry about that. Gotta be able to see it though. If I can't see it, we're not gonna get anywhere here. Right in here is where I would really kind of like to have brush. Maybe even a little bit more like rigid, almost like not a toothpick, you know, but kind of that style where it's pretty rigid and very small. Good, actually. Oop. I actually have this down here, not only to prevent from getting on the tablecloth, but specifically so I can remember where the framing is on the camera. So, like, because almost the whole thing's in frame except for this corner over here. And so I know if I stay on this, you guys will be able to see it, but I keep forgetting. All right, Ashardalon. There's the ring. Eyes look like. I do like a yellow for the eyes with like black on them. And for that, I absolutely will need a smaller brush. I won't try to do that today. I'll probably just brush over it in red, to be honest. I'm gonna do top bits here in red. Top bits here in red. Go ahead and just get the eye red here, and then we'll come back and put the actual eyeball and pupil in with the yellow over the top of it, because that'll kind of darken up the eye a little bit and make it look a little more sinister anyway. Being difficult in that middle kind of brow spot. Forehead to have the brighter red on it, but we are gonna have to come spikes again. Might be able to brush a little bit of this off. I'll do that here in a minute. You want to get inner bit there with the red. Like, speaking of framing, I'm like drinking that water or something, so I look like. That's funny. It's funny to do this alone. Like, I'm used to having somebody else around now. I used to do like gameplay streams just by myself, you know, on Twitch on my own channel or whatever. But it's been quite a while since I did that, so being just me in a room with chat is feels like a new thing. It's kind of funny how that's working out. I want to get those jaws and stuff with red too. In the image, he does have like kind of some yellow in his mouth. That's interesting. I think I want to reincorporate that into the mini as well. So look at doing that here. Then we'll have to come back in real fine for the teeth. Oh, that's gonna stay on. That's funny. Over it. I'll be doing kind of like a bone on the see how that goes, because my other thought is to do like an orange on the spikes. So we're gonna start with the we might have to make a bone color because I don't want them to be white. I have to mix a couple things here. But once we get that on there, if we don't like it, we can always go back to it. And if we do straight up white and then this kind of like darker yellow. It's funny that they include these color variants like this. Here in the I think honestly it might be better to add the yellow to the white. We really just kind of want like a slightly muddied white, almost like a tan. There we go. That's the color I'm looking for. Okay. Yeah, perfect. And you see here, like, there's really not much of it. However, there's also not a whole heck of a crazy lot of spots we have to put. And we now know how to do it. Make more. Let's try the nails first. Kind of thinking, I know this is a little like advanced, but I'm kind of thinking of doing like some cracks on the rocks. Or his claws digging into it. Might be kind of a cool addition. Stands out quite a bit. Right. You see that? That really stands out there. And I think in a good way too. A little harder to see on the camera from what I can see anyways. I don't know how it's coming through for you guys, or how it'll come through on the recording that we upload, but from my perspective, like looking at it just like actually here in person, it's pretty good right there. Almost has more of a like silver hue to it, which is a little interesting. Not a lot interesting in my opinion, but it's a little interesting from the perspective of like that's not what I expected. I'm okay with it. It's like a happy little accident type situation. You know? That's what painting just is. Painting's just a bundle of happy little accidents. Bob Ross said it best himself, you know? Life is relaxed. That's going to be real fun trying to get underneath there. That's going to be about fun enough for me to consider not doing it, but give it a whirl here and see what happens. Okay. That's alright. I need to come back through with a little bit more red because I left some red off the hands there. Because I wasn't quite sure how it would all work together. Let's see. That's another thing too, is like the difference that I'm seeing here is a lot to do with like this background. Like a traditional mini has that gray plastic. I mean, obviously there's, you know, there's other styles and stuff, but traditionally you've got the gray primed plastic, and that would actually be a lot easier for making sure that your colors are right for what you're really wanting when you're like blending it together. If you blend it together on like a paint, or not a paint, like on a plate or something of that nature, because the lighter background will make it look one way until you put it on the dark colored mini if you've got one like this. But as we said before, it'll be all right. I'm gonna put this in his mouth for now, just to kind of get a contrast in there to see what the contrast would look like once we consider doing like that yellow in there, or maybe we just go ahead and leave it like this. Not sure. I have to kind of see what happens. Bar. Cool. That actually, I don't know, kind of brings him together a little bit. little over paint there. There's just something about his teeth, man, that just works. Looks like he does kind of have this like kind of deeper orange to the horns. Might be a good thing to do for those. You know, with that dark effect, kind of thinking that, yeah, I missed a spot in the legs now that it's kind of dried. The darkening effect that it had on the red, I'm betting that there's a similar effect with the orange. So what I think we're gonna do is go ahead and put the orange just like on his chest. Yeah, doing that. I'm gonna have to leave that white open though. We'll have to clear out that gap. Down. So we just barely had any change to that. This is one that's gonna be a little lot, because you see how bright that orange is there. It's a bit of a nerve-wracking moment because we're gonna be putting a lot of it on here. And we've got this spot here, all across, aiming for the center spot here as well. There's a chance that with this, it may not come out the way I'm envisioning it. We'll see. Also, I'm thinking, now as I look at it, there's scales that go up here. There's kind of like main structure for the wing. And because there's scales on that, I'm going to paint that the same red color going up. And then maybe, and then I'll do the rest in the orange. Then maybe I'll do these others here in red as well. And of course the back is going to be just all red. These wings, with how large they are, this is going to be the area where doing like a wash or a dry brushing is really going to make a difference to it. So that's kind of what we're going to look at for that later on when we go to kind of do the steps of this guy. But I think it would be good to do the orange down the back here first, because once we come back in, we'll be doing that red over it, and the red being darker than the orange will cover it a little better if we have any mistakes. As with the rest of it, let's just go ahead and dive on in here. Where I want to start. If I want to start on a large area, if I want to start on a small area. Just start kind of here in the middle on the tail, just to get a perspective of the color. Fixes and how it spreads and everything. So now this might be a spot where like we're gonna start to see some of that difference between maybe like professional paints and whatever these paints are. Maybe it could be a brush issue or something, but I am noticing that this orange doesn't seem to quite be holding as well as the red did. Take my time here a little bit more with the orange. Make sure that you get good coverage. Because again, as I'd said before, specifically with Ashardalon here, like it's gonna be okay if it's a little dark, because you know he's the kind of dragon that's been through some stuff. He's ancient. He's seen a lot in his day, so if he's got couple lingering blemishes and such, actually probably going to be even more in line with the character himself. You know, really break that down if you try to look at it from that type of perspective. Moments where kind of slow, methodical brushing be better than choppy. Going to be a few spots where we want to kind of tap it in. Overall, I want to be a little bit more slow with it. This angle. I'm just noticed we forgot the claws on the feet. Back and do those as well. I do those fairly quickly here, just so that we don't run out of our lid paint that we mix together. Try up. Use it. Might even take a couple coats here. Like that's very possible too with this. I mean, if you think of any other kind of painting you do, there are just times when you have to put multiple coats on it to really get it the right way, and that may just be how this specific mini is going to be for us here too. Which again, that gives us more to do. And not in a bad way. I mean, an enjoyable process. Because paint on minis is really what like brings them to life. Like I said earlier, you don't have to have minis to play D&D to have a great time and tell a great story. But when you do have minis, having them painted up in the right coloring and everything just makes such a difference to the way that it feels, you know? Like, even, I'm sure you guys can see some of the change that's taken place here just off of this little bit that we've done here so far. Like, he just looks more real compared to, you know, the beginning. Like, you look at that versus, like, say, this guy. Like, sure, that's not done by any stretch of the imagination. There's still a massive amount of work to do on him. But you can see those little details just make a difference. And that's going to come across in your games as well. It doesn't have to be an amazing job to be enjoyable and to be kind of just neat, you know? Have to put in a little effort and let it go from there. Because a lot of it really is a placeholder. Think of minis. Of course you want to put your best effort out there, because if you're going to do something, you should always do it with your best effort. But if for some reason you just don't feel like it's perfect or whatever, or you're not fully satisfied with your painting job, that's fine. You have plenty of opportunities to continue getting better, to continue improving. But the main thing about having a miniature isn't about the appearance of it. It's about the existence of it. So that you can do that moment as a dungeon master of, and suddenly the room starts to warm around you. You look past the outcropping of rocks, you notice a red glow, and suddenly, landing in front of the party, a massive ancient red dragon roars into life. Like, that is where it's important. It's not, okay, look at this red dragon that has, these nice, like, aged claws on it. He's really showcasing, a bright orange that's blended quite well into the back. Like, who cares? cares? It's, oh my god, red dragon, ancient red dragon. It's massive. Like, look at it compared to like a standard size mini. Oh, like, problem. Your players aren't going to be worried about the fact that, oh, you got one little bit of it that's not quite blended properly, or you forgot to paint a toenail. Like, it's going to be, oh my god, dragon, we have to deal with this. So from a Dungeon Master's perspective, like, while it is important to try to do your best, the main thing is going to be more just utilizing it, if you have it. And utilize your abilities to, utilize your abilities to whoops. But no, utilize your abilities to tell a story and describe the events, describe the feelings to your players, as opposed to showing them some specific and intricately painted mini. You show them something. And like, it could be, you could use this to represent the location of your dragon, but you describe it in a manner that makes it relevant, makes it real to your players. And that's what's important about it. It's not necessarily about having some special mini. It's about being engaging socially and telling that story together. That's what's going to really make that memorable moment. Like, your players are going to be super excited about having a really well done mini at their table, and they're going to be like, oh my god, you did a great job with that. I mean, unless they're total jerks, but like, if you've put the time in and it turned out really well, and it's obvious that it's done well and everything, like, your players are going to recognize that, and they're likely going to comment on it. But in the end, the thing that's going to make it memorable, that moment, that fight, that intensity, is going to be the description of it. The way you go through with saying, you know, how it attacks, how it appears, the temperature of the room, the environmental effects, the way the light reflects off their faces, the heat causing sweat to begin to drip from their brows, you know, all that type of stuff. Those are the more important moments, as opposed to, oh look, this is painted. You know? Look quite nice. That's cool. And that's the other thing too, is like, when it comes down to this, if you enjoy painting minis, paint your mini. Like, if I break it down to the most basic sense of things, is if you get enjoyment and happiness out of having your minis painted, paint them. If it doesn't matter to you, don't worry about it. Because there are other ways to tell that story. So looking at this, what I think we're going to do is these these horns here, I think I'm going to have them be that same kind of whitish color. And then around here, I'm just not sure what to do. Looking at him dead on, it mimics the wings. I think we try hitting those fins with some orange. We do orange, see what happens. See how we like it. Because he's kind of orange in that area on the picture. And that's what I'm going for here too. Like, honestly, you could take this exact mini and you could paint it green if you wanted to. It doesn't make any difference. It's entirely up to you. If you own this mini, or if you, as in my case, have been given the ability to paint this mini, do whatever you want with it. Do whatever fits you and fits your game. You don't have to make it exactly like Ashardalon just because it is Ashardalon. Do what you enjoy. Do what makes you happy with it. Or project. Now, if you're painting it for somebody, obviously you keep that in mind. Like, if they said, hey, I was really hoping you could paint up this blue dragon for me, and you paint it orange, you're going to be like, what the heck, man? But If you're just doing it for yourself and you're like, hey, I want to paint this dragon that's supposed to be red. I want to paint it blue and gold. Sweet, that would look awesome. You know, and go for it. Heck yeah. Doesn't have to be anything special. It's special just because you did it. Get any more or less special the colors you used. It's going to be special because you made it happen. Brought that life to them. That's exciting. Like, I'm feeling that right now. Like I said at the very beginning of this stream, I mean, this is the first mini that I've really painted. And I feel proud of it. I'm not done with it. It's got problems and it needs some more work on a lot of different spots, but I'm proud of it. I think he's starting to look really cool, and I'd be really happy to bring this out, you know, in a game. And that's what it really boils down to. Because it's a game. That's what it is. It's a game. It's meant to just be fun. It's not about anything crazy. There doesn't need to be any stress with it. It's just a game. The stress is just the human reaction to it. It's, you know, those stressful moments type of thing that you create. I know I've got it out of frame here. That's on purpose this time. Like, you create those stressful moments in game and stuff for your characters to be stressed out, but you shouldn't be stressed out as a person all the time just because you're trying to be so perfect in your game. Like, that takes the fun out of it, you know? It's meant to just be fun. Like, I remember, it's no secret that Critical Role is what got me into Dungeons & Dragons so heavily. And I remember watching back in Campaign 1 of their show and seeing, like, that intense moment where, you know, Liam's character, Vax, is like really getting into some shit. And he just all of a sudden, like, Liam bursts out and is just like, it's a game. I need to take a moment to remind you all, it's a game. And he just like yelled that. And that's one of the most like impactful things to realize is it's just a game, man. Just kick back and enjoy yourself. It's just a game in the end. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be like it is life or death in the game, but it's not life and death in your life, you know? Like, I've got a character, my very first character is named Vandrhin, and he is one of my most like important characters to me because he existed well before my love of Dungeons & Dragons came about. He was a character that I came up with years and years ago as just this ranger in the woods to kind of represent myself. That's why he has the same name as me. So, like, it was always meant to just be that. But then I found D&D and was like, oh my god, now I'm going to be able to put this character into the world in some way. And I got really attached to that. And so, like, I even have this long-standing deal with the Dungeon Master that was running that game that when or if he was to die, the character, he would not actually die in the game. Like, he would die and things would change, the dynamic would change and such, but he would still technically be alive because I couldn't handle the concept of parting with that character, which is absurd, but is still a standing deal that we have. There's like this whole thing that happens if that character ever dies. All right, so we got a good bit of orange there. I'm starting to feel like we might Not like we are overdoing with the orange, but like we might overdo it a bit with the orange if we do the chest and the wings. I'm curious if anybody in the chat wants to pipe in with their opinions. What do you think? Do you think we should do both the chest and the wings in this orange? Or do you think we should do just the chest and do the wings in red? Or do you think we should do a completely different color on the chest, like a kind of like bronze type color maybe? Maybe mix like a red and a brown, or that tan with make it a little darker kind of thing. Feel free to sound off while I kind of look at it here myself. I do have the chat window up here. If you ever want to pipe in with any opinions or thoughts, feel free. Do my best to notice and respond to anything that does come through there while we're doing this. And in any future streams like this as well, of course. I just want to do those spikes on the back elbows there. Those right there. But I think I want to do those in that kind of bone color. Because we're doing like bone there, bone here, and then bone up here, but then down here with the red. That's unpainted currently too. We're about to go back to the red, I think, here to touch up some of those spots that we either missed or kind of waited on. I don't know. I kind of just want to slap some orange on that chest and see what it looks like. I'm going to do that. Because we do need some contrast there. Like that chest cannot be red. Yeah, I like that a lot, actually. The chest is definitely going to be orange. That looks really good in there. Sorry. The light is kind of reflecting it a little funny in the camera, but in person, it looks phenomenal. And obviously I just slapped it in there, so it needs, you know, smoothing and such. And all this orange will probably need a second coat, even with the mentality of it, of kind of wanting it to be a little more worn and darker. I just think that the orange is going to need that extra pop. Underneath all these kind of armor plate type thing too. And here I actually do kind of want to really get a little violent with the brush, just to make sure that I'm getting everywhere into all these crevices. It's also kind of darkening it up a little bit to do that. I think is certainly not. Real good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm happy with it from a perspective of like, this is my first mini. But I'm also happy with it from a perspective of like, I'd like to run into this, you know, use this in a game or see this on a battlefield of one I'm playing in or something, you know, because part of this, I think what helps this is I'm seeing the finished product as I'm going here. Like I can see what it'll look like when I touch this up in here to make this more orange. I can see the same on here. Once I get this hand done in the correct red, I can kind of just see that in like my mind's eye type of thing. So we're actually going to have a lot of red going on for a while, in a moment. So what I'm going to do instead of what I had said previously is I'm actually going to, looks like grapefruit juice. I'm actually going to do those whites, that kind of bone color, in the spots where I want that first here, and then come back and do the rest of the reds. So I want to make sure that it just on the air so I can get down into this spot. Tap in another spot. We're just stippling it in there. Little dots. Side. Just to get it. Contact adds that little bit of contrast in there. This would be really cool to have like a head-mounted camera or something for. It would make it kind of funny looking, like in the camera where you guys can kind of see me at. But it'd be really cool to get that point of view perspective. Brush camera. Actually, that would be the way to do it. That camera actually affixed to the brush, like a little tiny one. And again, my reminder about like thinking about the painting, like thinking about painting as painting, you're gonna have touch-up spots, you know. So it's okay to have that. You see those little claws right in there? Woo! And over there, oh, that really brought it together. That really brought it together. That's cool. This is exciting. I almost kind of want to darken it up a little more for the horns, but we're gonna go ahead and hit them and just see what it's like. I think it's going to be too light here. This will probably be the first thing we really have to change. Oh, shabby. Those things match and match here now, so. And again, just to remind you guys, I am going specifically off of a picture here to try to make this guy look as much like he does on the packaging, like the official pack. So that's why I keep referencing like, well, he does look like that, regardless of what my opinion might be for a thing. And like I'd said before, that is going to be different for every mini that you do. I'm not always going to have a reference image that you're specifically trying to adhere to. However, you can do that. Like if you go, I want to make my dragon mini look exactly like Smaug. Well, you can pull up pictures of Smaug and you can go ahead and do that. If you want to make it look like the dragon in your head, you just go ahead and paint it like the dragon in your head, and that's going to be great. Looks a little more like regal that way. I mean, that's the best way I can think to word it. It's almost like a crown on his head. The way it stands out like. I don't want to forget the back. Especially for our purposes. Because there's a lot of times when... Oop, mess up. There's a lot of times when we'll like put a mini on the table and it'll be facing away from the camera because it's facing towards the players, or not towards the players specifically, but like towards their characters. Okay, so I've got a mistake to fix now. Take some of this excess on where it's on front horn here. Together, right? We're gonna be kind of going with this, so I can go a little extra here. We'll be covering it with like this. Shoot. Cover that. But I had a little overdue back here that I'm going to try to move. Again, like I said, it can look a little worn, so yeah, we're going to go back and paint that again later. And that's like I said, that's part of it. You've got the ability to do that. If you need to. Okay. Stakes are perfectly fine. And we want to leave this horn this color, but I don't want the like the bottom of the nose down here to be that color. We're just gonna have to go over it with the red once we get the red out. So this top bit will still have that, but kind of circled right around over those nostrils. Kind of like the it's important not to overdo that, you know. May need to run just a tad bit of red back down through there as well. We do have a couple more spots to hit with the bone. Hit these. They're a very difficult spot to get the back. It's good there. Oh, overdid there too. But we're just about starting with the red again, so that'll be. And again, that's the thing too, is like if you're painting minis for your games to use in your game, a lot of times people aren't going to notice or care about those little blemishes when you really break it down. So it doesn't matter as much. It just matters as to what makes you feel like you've done the best you can do. And if you don't feel like you've done the best you can do, you should keep going. Feel like you've given it your best effort and you're happy with it, that's when you stop. Complete. You happily take it to your game, and if people that you're playing with are assholes about it, tell them to fly a kite. If they continue to be rude, find a better group, because those people. Or they are good friends and they're just really giving you a hard time, and maybe you don't articulate, hey, this bothers me that you're being like this. Maybe you get everybody together and show them just how difficult it can be. You're like, hey, let's have a mini painting, session instead of a game. We'll all get together and we'll paint some minis up. And then they start painting and they're like, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of difficult. And then you got them. Similar to like the whole kill them with kindness type of thing, Which, speaking of, that saying would be an excellent thing to bring into a D&D game of some kind. Like, how could you kill them with kindness? So, there's got to be a way, something to brainstorm, I'm sure. I just think that would be really interesting to try to utilize that mentality with a D&D game. Making sure I've got all the spots that I want to be this color are this color. Airbrush here. Oof, overdone big. That's okay. The other thing too, if you do a bad job painting, you always be like, oh yeah, I've had this mini for years. It's just worn. I haven't gotten around to redoing it, and then never tell them when you do another new one. I am probably going to drink this damn paint water here for too long because it is starting to look delicious. I have mine down here. I forgot to go up and get my one. That's fine. We're going to do this for about another 26 minutes to about 9 o'clock Central. And honestly, this is what I was talking about with the brush breaking. It's not actually broken, it's just the glue is undone on it, so it kind of comes apart from time to time. But we're going to go till 9 o'clock Central here. It is currently 8:35. That's 25 minutes left of doing this. And then we're going to go ahead and call it at that point, regardless of how much we've done. And I'll just completely stop on this. And then we'll come back through and we'll look at it again the next time that we do this. It will not be like at this time in the future. That's for sure, because like there are the chances that it will be. If everybody's sick again or something and I'm the only one who can make it here, if there's bad weather or something like that, then of course. But in general, this time slot will be when we do Wings of Anadar normally. So we're looking at maybe doing this kind of stream on Tuesdays as kind of a like day/morning type stream. So that's something like this is kind of a test for that, to see if we like this, to see if you guys like this, and if everybody likes it, well then we will go ahead and do it. So yeah, that kind of worked. Sometimes kind of worked is the closest you can get to working. But yeah, if people like this, if we like this, I like this. Frankly, if I like this and we don't have anything else on the channel at the time, I mean, I'm the one who formed the channel and runs the channel, so theoretically, I enjoy it, and there's nothing else that would normally be in a time slot that I am considering for it, then we're going to go ahead and do it on a regular basis. Because it just gives people something extra. Watch something different too. Like when it comes to Wings of Anadar, or any other show that we may have planned in the future that is a campaign, there's just so much that goes into that from a viewer perspective that it's a little more difficult to keep up with. Sometimes, you've got a busy schedule, busy life, all that going on. We understand that. We're going to play our game regardless. And that's why we put it on YouTube, so people can watch it for free later on if they aren't able to make it to the actual live. time slot. But all in all, that's what this kind of channel is about. Is the point I'm getting at here is we're just doing stuff we like doing, that we would be doing anyways, and we happen to be putting it out there on the internet for other people to interact with. But this type of thing here is one of those things that's just a little easier to get into and keep up with than an actual story, because you can pop in and be like, oh hey cool, this guy's painting a dragon. That's it. That's the entire story there. Because that's literally exactly what I'm doing. I am sitting here painting a dragon and talking nonstop for 2 hours. And I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Yeah, rip the brush, right, Dragonclaw man? This brush is a mess. But yeah, I'm gonna redo underneath here more red. Just because it feels like a lot of white up there in the front. But he's really coming along. A lot of white up there. But yeah, so like I was saying, like this is super easy to consume, super easy to get into. You can just be like, oh cool, there's neat music here, and we're watching the progress here. That's it. That's the end of the story. And then we see what happens from there. So that's why this will be an ongoing thing in some capacity. It's just going to be, scheduling it out and making sure we've got the right time allotment for it and all that. And you might do a thing too where like a couple of us get together and do some paintings or something. Like that might be kind of neat. Group painting session, kind of like what I was talking about doing, but not like I was talking about it in the sense of that'd be a great way to like for other people's groups, but it might be fun for our group too, because we've all got minis that need painted. Every single one of us has minis that are just sitting in boxes completely unopened even. Like I know for a fact that myself and Phoenix, Hillary, that we both have the Critical Role minis in our boxes still. Unless she was motivated by this stream to break hers out and start painting them. Which I'm sure Dragonclaw there will tell me if you guys have started busting out the minis this evening. Which I would find that amusing overall. Actually, David, if you are still hanging out here, did Hillary ever get a maze mini situated? Wings are crazy. Here's a spot where you can just kind of slap the paint around. That's the nice part about the big ass wings. Slap paint all over them and see where it sticks. You have to be as precise as the rest of it. That's another reason why I left the wings till near the end here, is so that I could just kind of go at them and not have to be all precise or intricate, because I knew I'd have to be precise and intricate throughout the rest of the painting. And this is just kind of like get the paint on it, not as much effort. Make it look good, you just kind of put it there. And then go through certain elements later on. Then as it dries, it'll darken up just like the rest of it. Get under the back wing right now when I have get that other inside. I need to get that mouth finished too. Go ahead and get the mouth fixed. As I stick my finger. And realistically, if you think about it, like the horn comes out of the skin, formed a little bit. The skin color, lay the horn slightly. Isn't going to be the worst thing in the world. That looks so much better. Oh my god. That little change there. I don't know how well you guys can see that with the way the light reflects off of it because fresh paint, but that made such a difference to how it looked. Just bringing that red around there, filling in the face. We'll get another wing here. Which kind of has the same concept too, because if you think of these little like claws coming out of the top of the wing, they're gonna kind of pop out of the skin as well. So. Gonna have it. Funny, like, yeah, obviously they're minis, so of course it's small, but it's the smallness is the only thing that really makes this so tedious, I guess you would say. It's still enjoyable by every stretch, but in any way unenjoyable, at least for me. But the sizing on here gives you that like intricacy that you gotta work with. Kind of amusing. Try to sort and get used to. I am still torn about these wings. They may end up orange on. Now you guys can't really see the angle right now that well, but I don't know, they look pretty good this way too, I guess. Pretty good being all red. Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody, probably a YouTube comment when we upload this to YouTube, there'll be somebody that's like, well, why'd you paint the red dragon red that was already red primed? Because I wanted to. But no, the main aspect is just to really get that brighter red. Because the actual dragon that we're going for here has a bright red. And it's funny, this is actually very, very similar in coloring and makeup to Arcus Parthor, our red dragon from Wings of Anadar. Parthor is a red and orange dragon. Horns and spikes and all the accoutrement that you would expect from like kind of a traditional red dragon. So if there's ever a need for Othel to be a dragon form in a battle of any kind, we're prepped. We could use Ashardalon for that. Okay. realize I have meetings tomorrow and I'm gonna have fingers look like I'm painting my fingernails. In the Midwest, that doesn't go over as well as it does on the coast. Those of you that may find that statement to be confusing. This is going to be a spot where you guys are really going to like watch a change happen, because you're going to be able to actually see how much of a difference this is, because it's just all be done. And it'll be fairly obvious. Groove's a little bit better. Kind of a back and forth here because he's got all these grooves for the wings. A little bit lighter, but that's, I mean, we're going for lighter. But I mean, it's like a lighter covering when stretching the paint a little bit more when you do that. This will be a good like side-by-side comparison for anyone who has gone, why are you painting the red dragon red? Because you'll see the difference that exists between the red primer and the red of the actual paint. I already see that there. This is much more of an actual red, whereas this is more of a purpley color. There's actually even some already on there, but if you look at specifically that area versus this area, which isn't even finished yet, there's a clear and obvious difference there. Here are these scales. I'm like a little more careful here. Not scales, but spines. Trying to make sure I paint the scales over. To get full immersion that I'm going for. Yeah, pretty good. Oh yeah, and the inside looks way different too. Now that I'm seeing it, like, it's not finished, but now seeing it from the different perspective once it starts kind of drying and everything, changes that color so drastically. Maybe that's another reason why I'm liking this, is because it does remind me of Arthur. Yeah. I like all my characters that I come up with for the most part that are like interesting like he is. Like Morelia and Tyrael and Oral and all them. But Ressa, I like her a lot. Kira, I like her a lot. But no, there's something about Bacchus that just really, I don't know, interests me. It might just be that voice, because I've always had that voice available to me. Like Athalion's voice is very similar. And so I've always found that be pretty interesting. How just that tone and that portrayal can connect me to the character so well. And my voice is nothing like that. I mean, it is my voice, but it's not my normal speaking voice. My normal speaking voice is what you guys have been hearing this whole evening. I just realized that was completely out of frame the whole time. That's kind of the name of the game. I should call this Out of Frame instead of Minis and Music. It's actually not a terrible name either. I mean, it is an art stream, per se. The other cool thing about doing a mini that has the gray primer on it, you get to see the spots you haven't hit a lot easier. That makes getting full coverage for the day there easier. Quality on this. And thick. Now clear out there. And yeah. There he is. That, I think, I'm not calling him finished right now. There's a couple of spots I still want to touch up overall, but that is, and of course we still want to do the base. That is where we're gonna kind of halt things this evening with the painting of Ashardalon. And I will be able to focus the camera a lot better here real soon, so that you guys can get a good kind of final look at the mini here before we end the stream. And if at this time anybody has any final questions or anything that you would like to bring up, feel free to do so. I'm going to check on some of the, like we had some a bunch of posts out requesting people throw in some questions and stuff. So if by chance someone has responded to one of those, I want to make sure that we do get it answered properly. So let me check my phone here real quick just to see if there have been any pop-ups. And then I do believe we've got somebody that we're going to go ahead and host this evening. So let me check, we'll check Instagram first here, which of course is at RoleThis. If you are not actively following us on Instagram, you can just look up RoleThis, RoleThis, and give us a follow over there. We post a bunch of different stuff from time to time. It's not actually like super active yet, but we are looking to kind of push things out a little bit more once we just kind of decide what the right thing to put out on Instagram is. Like there will be a picture of this mini in its finished state here. And then there will also be, we've got dice pictures on there and a few other things as well. So, you know where to check to see if there have been any things. So I think we're good. On Instagram. Double check Twitter here real quick, and I think everything we've got that we could have answered has been answered already. Okay, looks like Twitter, at least for my account, is good. Roll this account. There's a couple things there, but I believe we've gone over everything in that as well. Yep. So, should be good. Unless someone did a Facebook thing and we didn't get notified about it, which would be kind of frustrating. Looks like we're good there too. Cool. Awesome. So, let me get a good shot here. Ooh, I don't know where to touch. It's all for the paint. Kind of a real close up camera. It's gonna put a little like cross thing on there and stuff, but yeah, you guys can really see the difference there now, and a lot of the detail that was kind of harder to see from the other range. Really wish it wasn't. I wish this overlay didn't come up every time I focus the camera, but what are you gonna do? Thinking, maybe it needs a little bit more up on the face changed. We need to do something with the base to make it more realistic. And then just some final like touch-up stuff, and I think he'll be good. For that reset back down there too. So is what it is. We don't have a better way to focus it, so we'll just focus it like that. I forgot that I left this cap on there the whole time. That's funny. But yeah, so thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate it. And I've got some cleanup to do here. That water full of paint is actually looking pretty dang good still. So I'm gonna go see if I can find a drink that actually has that look to it, like some pink lemonade or something somewhere, because I actually love pink lemonade. But we are going to maybe do a host here of another channel that the folks of Found Familiar are playing on this evening. We might do that. I'm going to check them out, but it won't be a raid. It'll be a host after the fact. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. As always, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good night. As I try to get over to the adios screen. Again, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we'll see you next time.